No, I do not hear you.
Okay, thank you. Shalom as we continue, we're back in Masechet Sanhedrin, and we are holding in the seventh parak, and we're holding Arba Mitot. The parak started off by telling us about the different modes of execution, and it's important to know the order of the modes, because if someone was to someone was hayav two executions, so the halacha is you give them the one that's greater. So you have to know the order. So we in the Mishnah we met two orders. There was the order of the Rabbanan, the Chachamim, and that is the order that we have lahalacha. This is the order that we're familiar with in the prayers on Yom Kippur, where we say Sekila, Serefa, Hereg, Vehenek, which is stoning, burning. Hereg is killed by the sword, beheading, and Chenek is strangulation. But in the Mishnah, we had another opinion. We had the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon, he said, Shimon Bar Yochai, right apropos, as Lag BaOmer is in like 2 nights. So Shimon Bar Yochai says there's a different order. And his order is different. What's his order? Srefa, then sekila. First is burning. That's the worst and the harshest of punishments. And then goes stoning. And then he says it's chenek, strangulation, and then a hereg, and then the sword. So he's really arguing with the chachamim in two fronts. Which one is greater, skila or streifa? He says streifa, where chacham say skila. And then chenek and hereg, chacham say hereg, the sword, and then strangulation. He says strangulation, and then the sword. So last week on Daf Memtet Amud Bet and Daf Nun in the beginning, we were dealing with how the chachamim proved their order. And there was the order of skila, streifa, hereg, vechenik. So today, we're going to pick up the other side of the coin, and we're going to see how Rav Shimon has his order. Halacha l'maisa, the Rambam brings down the halacha like we have. It's skila, streifa, hereg, vechenik, but Rav Shimon Bar Yochai has his order. So now we have to figure out what's his basis for his order, how he's going to prove his order, streifa, skila, chenek, and then hereg, burning, stoning, strangulation, and then the sword. So let's begin. We're at the 2 dot on Nun Amud Aleph towards the bottom, 2 lines from the two lines up from the wide lines. All right, in English 50A-3. Let's begin. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Streif Chamura Miskila, burning is worse than the punishment of skila, of stoning. Shikain nitina lavat kohen chazinta, because a bat kohen, right? This is Parshas Emor. Is the we just read Parshas Emor on Shabbat. So it said over there, Ovat ish kohen kita chel is no. When a daughter of a kohen, she profanes herself by committing adultery. Et avia hi she profanes her father, but eish tisarev, she needs to get burnt, right? So we see over here that it's given to a bat kohen who commits adultery. And what's so strict about her punishment? She can't be halal et avia, because not only does she embarrass herself and her family, she embarrasses her father, and her father loses his status as a kohen. To some degree, people don't respect him anymore. He doesn't get the same treatment that he was before. So that's why it's a terrible punishment. Gemara said, Adarabba, maybe perhaps skila chamura, maybe stoning is worse. She can't need to know lemagade for the right? Because it's given to a person who serves Avodah Zarah, someone who curses Hashem, also from this week's parsha, the Magadeh, right? Parshas Emor, the end, the guy who curses God, right? And what punishment he got? Skila. So Umay Chumra, what's so bad about them? She came Poishid Yod Beikar, because that's the whole Judaism, believing in Hashem. A person can curse God or serve Avodah Zarah, he doesn't believe in Hashem, he goes completely against Judaism. And that's what the Chachamim, by the way, that's how Rabbeinu Chananel learned. That's why Chacham said Skila is the worst. Based on this, that it the fundamentals of Judaism. But Rav Shimon Bar Yochai says no. Shimon Bar Yochai says Sreifa is worse. And why? Rav Shimon Latame. Rav Shimon is according to his reasoning. Okay, so we have to go back to what we mentioned last week in order to understand also this week Rabbi Shimon. Okay, so we're going to see there's a pasuk in the Torah that says the noef v'noefet Mot mot yumat hanoefer hanoefer. That means that the adulterer and the one committing, right, so the man and the woman who is committing adultery, they have to be killed. The Torah says mot yumat. Usually, when the Torah says mot yumat, that means chenik, means strangulation. Then there's a pasuk in the Torah in Dvarim that says if she was a nahara hamarusa, she is an engaged, betrothed woman, only error sin happened, and she commits adultery. It's a worse sin because she's in her father's jurisdiction, and she does the sin then. So then the punishment is, it says, "V'hotzitem et shneim el shahar er hahi uskaltem otam ba'avanim," and you kill them with stoning. Okay, that's what we learned last week. A regular Israelite lady who commits adultery as a fully married woman receives strangulation, her and her paramour, the person she's with. And if she is a betrothed, engaged, an arusa, and she commits this, then she receives stoning. And the person she's with also receives stoning. And that was what that's straight up in the Torah. Now, this week's parsha, Parshas Emor, it says, "Vatish Kohen kitachel note." When a Kohen's daughter, when she commits adultery, she gets burned. Be'esh tisaref. So the Chachamim said, when is this? What case are we talking about? We're talking about the case when she is in the Nesua, when she's completely married. Because usually, if an Israelite lady commits adultery when she's completely married, she gets strangulation. So you bump it up to Sreifa. It's a higher punishment if you're a daughter of the Kohen. But, but, if it's an Arusa, if they're only betrothed and she's engaged, so then an Israelite lady gets skila for committing that. So I won't give the Bat Kohen Sreifa because it's a punishment down according to the Chachamim. Therefore, she'll still get skila. The arusa of a bat kohen also gets skila like the Israelite lady, and she does not get shrei because it would be a lighter punishment according to the chacham. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says no. The pasuk doesn't tell me uvat ish kohen. It doesn't tell me if she's an arusa. It doesn't tell me that she's in a nesua. It must mean it doesn't make a difference. The daughter of a Kohen, if she commits adultery, whether she's in Arusa, whether she's in Nesua, she will get burnt. And that means that the Torah is taking an Arusa of an Israelite. She's supposed to get skila. And if she's about Kohen, she's giving her streifa. That must mean that streifa, that burning, is worse than skila. Because the Torah wouldn't downgrade a punishment to the Bat Kohen, but only will upgrade. And the fact that the pasuk is talking about either or, Arusa or a Nesua, must mean that Sreifa is a worse punishment. So let's now see everything I spoke outside, inside. Shimon Tamei, Shimon according to his reasoning. Shimon Bar Yochai, the Omar, he says, Achat Arusa, but Achat Nesua, Yotzal Sreifa. Doesn't matter if she's a betrothed, doesn't matter if she's completely married. If she commits adultery, she gets Sreifa. And now that the Torah took out the Bat Kohen from the punishment of Skila, if she's an Arusa, like an Israelite lady who's an Arusa would get stoning, and instead they give to the Bat Kohen, they're giving her Sreifa, Shma Mina. We learn from here, Sreifa Chamura. Okay? Because of the way Shimon Bar Yochai learns this pasuk, Bat Ish Kohen, Chel is known, which could mean talking about a Arusa or a Nesua, it must mean, he says, that Sreifa is worse than Skila. Because the Bat Kohen is getting an upgrading punishment. She's getting Sreifa. And if she wasn't a Bat Kohen, she would get Skila. Must mean that Sreifa is worse. Okay? Now that is Shimon Bar Yochai's first proof that Sreifa is greater than Skila. So now, Sreifa Chamura Mechenik, Sreifa is worse than strangulation. How do we know this? The Bat Kohen she's into. The Bat Kohen who commits adultery, she gets Sreifa. Umay Chumra. And what's the chumra? What's the the worstness of the sin. Kid Amr, like we said, because she Michal, her father. Adarab. Gemara says maybe chenik chama. Maybe strangulation is worse. Why? Someone who wounds his parents, he gets strangulation. Umay chumra. And what's so bad about wounding a parent? The parsha, the Sukkim, the Torah say, respect your parents, and it says respect Hashem. So it compares the respect of the parent to respect of Hashem. So if you wound a parent, you get chenik. Maybe chenik's worse. The Gemara says, I'll tell you no. How do I know? Shimon Bar Yochai says, he says, I'll tell you. If an Israelite lady commits adultery, she gets chenik. And if she's a bat kohen, she gets sreifa. That proves to me that sreifa is worse than chenik. Okay, again, Shimon Bar Yochai is sticking to his shita that that sreifa is the worstest punishment, and he's learning it from the fact that a bat ish kohen gets sreifa, no matter if she's going to restore in the suah. So now the Gemara has to prove that sreifa is worse than the sword. Sreifa chamur mistayif. Sreifa burning is worse than the sword, worse than hereg, right? She can't do about kohen. She isn't because about kohen who commits adultery, she gets burning by chumrah, like we said, because she mechalas avia, she profanes her father. Adrabah, maybe no. Sayif chamur. Maybe the sword is worse. Shekain nitan lan she'ir hanidachat. Because the sword is used to kill the people of the wayward city, right? A group of the majority of the city starts to serve avodah zarah, they have to be killed by the sword. The pasuk says, and what's so bad about it? It's bad because not only do they get killed by the sword, you have to also destroy their property. Usually you don't have to do that to kill somebody. The property goes to the people who inherit them. It never works, but here the property has to be destroyed too. Amarta, now hold on a second. Which one is worse? Which person in this scenario is worse? Koach hamediach or koach hanidach? The person who causes those to serve avodah zarah, or the ones who actually serve avodah zarah, right? So ha'omer koach hamediach. What do we say? The person who causes others to sin. Now, Chachamim, we already learned last week. Chacham said that the people who cause the other people to serve avodah zarah, they would get skila. But we're going to learn much later on Daf Pei Tet, Daf 89. So a long time till we get there. But Rav Shimon Bar Yochai holds that's not true. The people who cause other people to serve avodah zarah, they get chenik. They get strangulation. Okay? So he says now, the kal v'chomer. Uma chenik shechomer misayif. Now chenik is worse than the sword. Why? Because the person who causes others to do avodah zarah gets chenik per Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and the koyach hamediach, the one who caused other people to sin, is worse than the person who actually does avodah zarah. So the one who's caused gets chenik, and the one who serves avodah zarah and dachas gets a sword. So you see that chenik is worse than sayif, and sreifa chamur mimenu, and sreifa is worse than chenik because an Israelite lady gets chenik if she does adultery, fully married woman, whereas a bat kohen who's fully married would get shreifa. So you see, shreifa is worse than chenik, and saif now saif is less than chenik. Kol shekain is enough for sure that shreifa is worse than the sword. So it comes out according to Shimon Bar Yochai, shreifa is the worst of all four. Okay, now he has to show that skila is second place. So skila chamur mechenek. Skila is more worse than chenek, than strangulation. If someone who serves avodah zarah, someone who curses Hashem, they get skila. And what's so bad? Like we said, watch a push on the bikar. He goes against the fundamentals of Judaism. But maybe no. Maybe strangulation is worse. Because someone who wounds his parents gets chenik. And what's so bad about it? She can't hukash because Hashem compares his cover to his parents' cover. So maybe chenik is worse. Or it says no. I'll show you no. Medaf Rachmana Larus by Islamic Anasu by Islam Chenik Skila. Shmamina Skila Chamura. I'll tell you how. If you have an Israelite lady and she commits adultery, if she's fully married, she gets chenik. And if she's only betrothed, so now it's a worse sin because she does under her father's jurisdiction, she gets skila. So what do I see? That skila is worse than chenik because an Israelite lady, if she's not fully married, she's betrothed, she gets the worse punishment of skila. If she's fully married, she gets chenik. So skila is worse than chenik. Now he has to prove skila chamura mitzayif. Skila, the stoning is worse than the sword. Shekinit l'megadek. There's a person who curses Hashem, which is over the Zara, gets it because it's partially bigger. He goes against the fundamentals of Judaism. But Adrabah, Saif Gomer, maybe not. Maybe the sword is worse. Because it goes, you kill the people who serve with the Zara and Iran Dachas with the sword. My Chumrah. And what's so bad about Iran Dachas? It came in one of it because you have to destroy their property. So maybe the sword is worse than Zakila. Oh my, we said, which one is worse? The one who calls other people serve the Zara, the one who actually does that by the Zara. And we said, what? Person who causes other people to sin, and according to Shem Baruch Chai, what's punishment? Chenik. Now, chenik is worse than saif, worse than the story, because the people who cause others to sin is the worse sin, get the worse punishment. They get strangulation. And saif is less than chenik. Skila chamora mimenu. Stoning is more worse than skila chamora mimenu. Saif makal loy kol shekain. Now skila is worse than chenik, right? Because we already saw that an Israelite lady gets skila versus chenik if she's arusa. So saif hakal. Now the sword, which is less than chenik, like kol shekain. Is it not logical that stoning is more severe than that? So again, using his own shitot, he proves that skila is worse than the chenik and worse than the sword. Continues the Gemara. Now he has to show that the third of the in the order of punishments is chenik. Chenik harim saif. Strangulation is worse than a sword. Because someone who wounds his parents gets the gets chenik. Like we said, Hashem compares his covenant to their covenant. No, maybe saif is worse. She can because people who serve with the zara. And your dachas get the sword. And my chumrah, she came over of it, and it's bad because now they killed them, you have to destroy their property. But we said on Martin Meruba, which one is worse? The one who causes people to sin, or the one who actually sins. The one who causes other people to sin. And we said in Tanya was a machloket. Which punishment did they get? According to the Chachamim, those who cause other people to sin get skila. Shimon Omer, the chenik. Shimon says when strangulation. So according to Shimon, the people who cause the people to sin get chenik. So then chenik is greater than saif because the sword, the herek, only goes to those who serve with the zar, not the ones who actually made other people do it. So therefore, chenik is worse than skila. Worse than chenik is worse than hereg, is worse than a beheading, and that's the order of Shem Bar Yochai. Streifa is the highest because they took a Israelite lady who gets an arusa, she would get skila. She committed adultery, but now that she's about coming, she gets streifa. So that proves streifa is the highest. Skila is worse than chenik because an Israelite lady who is an arusa gets skila versus chenik. Chenik is worse than the sword because in the Iran Dachas, the ones who cause other people to sin get chenik versus those who sin actually just get the sword, and that is the order of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay, so far so good. Let's continue to the next Gemara. Any questions on that? I think we cleared it up, right? Okay. It was something that was rogel, right? Meragel means something that was rogel, something regularly said by Rabbi Yochanan. Or it was a margoliot, it was a peril, something very special to Rabbi Yochanan that he would say over. What did he say? Na'arahat morasa bat kohen into beskila. According to the Chachamim, if a betrothed, engaged lady Narusa commits adultery, she gets skila. That's the chamin. Shimon says he would get streifa, right? Because he says the pasuk says streifa doesn't matter engaged, not engaged. Every type of attached woman would get streifa if she committed adultery as a bat kohen. Now, let's say there was a case zinta me'avia b'skila. Let's say she was engaged to a man, and then she committed adultery, but she committed adultery with her father. We're going to learn later on that there's a psukim that we learn Gzeir Shavah from, and we see that if a father and a daughter were together and had relations, and they were warned and everything, they would get srefa. Okay, they would get srefa. Now, if you have an engaged girl, right, daughter of an Israelite, and she committed incestuous adultery with her father, zinta me'avia b'skila. Why? According to the Chachamim, we have two punishments here. She is an arusa and she's committing adultery. So, the punishment for an Israelite, or even a bat kohen, right? If she's an arusa and she commits adultery, she gets skila. And if she's with her father, right, she gets streifa. But now you can't punish them with both. So which one do you give? The harsher punishment, according to the Chachamim, the highest punishment is skila. She gets skila. Rav Shimon streifa. Rav Shimon says with streifa. What? She's an Israelite lady. She committed adultery while she was engaged, so she should get skila. That's the fairish pasuk. She's not a kohen, just a regular Israelite. But then she was with her father, and with your father, you get streifa. According to Shimon Bar Yochai, what is the worse punishment? Streifa. So since she's chai of two punishments, she would get streifa according to Shimon Bar Yochai. My kamashmanon. What is Yochanan teaching us as follows? The Rabbanon Natsuya Yotam L'Streiva. So when it comes to a kohen's daughter, if she's married, she gets streiva, but if she's engaged, she does not get streiva according to the Chum. She would get stoning. According to Shimon, about Kohen, whether she's engaged, whether she is fully married, she gets burned. What's the reasoning? Skila is the worst. Therefore, you cannot go and take the punishment of skila and switch it to streifa, because you can't go that way. He has to go up, not down, for a bat Kohen. Shimon holds streifa is the worst punishment. So nafkamina lemishes chayiv shtei mitot beitin nidon bechamura, because usually it's a nafkamina. The difference is if she's chayiv two or anyone's chayiv two mitot, you have to go with the one that's more chamer. Therefore, you have to know the order. So far, so good. All right. Let us continue. Now we have to get the source for Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. We understand Rav Shimon Bar Yochai's ruling, right? He ruled that bat kohen doesn't make a difference if she's fully married, she's betrothed, doesn't make a difference. She will get streifa, right? And that's why he says streifa is the worst. But where does he come up with this? My Rabbi Shimon. What is the source to Rabbi Shimon? The Tanya was talking about Shimon Shnei Kilalot Bat Kohen. There were two generalized statements that is said by Bat Kohen. Gemara says by Bat Kohen, by Yisrael. These generalized statements were said only by Bat Kohen, not by Bat Yisrael. Emo after Bat Kohen. Rather say also by Bat Kohen. Okay, so we have to stop for a moment. This is all Note 12. Okay, generalized statements. We already know it's called Kalim. Sometimes the Torah will teach us the cloud, teaches a generalized statement, and we learn a lot of stuff from that. And if there's a prat, something that removes it, we have to learn how to learn it. So this is our Shem by Yochai. We have two psukim in the Torah. Note 12. Okay, Mot Yumat Hano Efer Hano Efer. they should surely die. The one who commits adultery, the man and the lady, both be killed. Now, mochi man usually means chenik, so it means chenik. She's killed with chenik. He's killed with chenik. Then there's another pasuk. There's psukim and devarim that talk about na'ara morasa. Kiyeh na'ara betula morasa leish. There was a virgin na'ara, and she was betrothed to a man. Umatza ish ve'er v'shachav imo. And another man went out and was with her. V'hotzitem et shneim el shar ha'ir hahu. Told them have to be taken out. Uskaltem otam b'avonim. And you have to kill them with stoning. So hold on, we have two clothing, and either pasuk it doesn't make a differentiation between an Israelite or a Bat Kohen. It just says adulterer and adulterer, right? The adulterer and the adulteress, if they're married, fully married, then they get chenik, and if she's just betrothed, she gets skila. And that's where the Torah leaves it at. It doesn't say it's a Bat Kohen, it doesn't say it's the Bat Yisrael. Just that's what it says. So sure, Chai says that's my cloud, that's my generalization. Then what happens? He says, then the pasuk comes, and the pasuk says, "Uvat ish kohen kitachelas nod eta mechalel beishes." And it doesn't say nesua. It doesn't say arusa. It just says about ish kohen. Therefore, this pasuk comes to exclude the nesua from the regular punishment of chenik, and it comes to exclude an arusa from the punishment of skila, and instead to give them both shreifa. So read it. Removes the fully married woman from the fully married woman, and the betrothed Kohen's daughter to a regular betrothed woman. Just like we saw, that it goes from chenik to streifa, and it does it in the sense of upgrading the punishment to a worse punishment. So too in the pasuk removes the betrothed. It doesn't say betrothed or not, so it must remove everyone. So when it removes it, it also removes it to a stricter punishment. So it goes from skila to streifa. That shows that streifa is the stronger punishment, and that's the way they read it. Uvat ish kohen. If you remember from last week, we mentioned the Ramban and why he says the Chachamim would say bat ish kohen means only a fully married lady and not a betrothed. That was the Ramban we had last week. I don't want to get into that again, but that's Rav Shimon Bar Yochai's learning. Just to continue that brighter where this was brought from. Now, continue in 50B3. It says, if we had Zayimim, okay, so we have to go back. Remember what Aiden Zayimim are. Aiden Zayimim are witnesses that come and say we saw X, Y, and Z, and then they're found to be liars because they were not there that day. Two other witnesses come and say those two witnesses were with us somewhere else. They couldn't have seen what they said they saw. So they become Zayimim. Usually we say Kashir Zamam, like what they wanted to do. That's the way we punish them. This is right that says that doesn't happen by Bat Kohen. So they came and give testimony by Bat Kohen that she committed adultery, and she's a completely married lady, so she's supposed to get streifa. We don't give them streifa. Rather, we'll give them the punishment that an Israelite lady would get, meaning you'd give them chenik. Zoyme arusa bat kohen, v'chla zoyme arusa bat Yisrael. So too, they were zoyme by an arusa, right? Which, according to Shimon Bar Yochai, she would get streifa. But if we don't punish her with streifa, rather we would give the punishment of what an Israelite lady would get, which would be skila. According to the Chum, they both be skila, so they would get skila. But according to Shimon Bar Yochai, you would still give them skila because you don't give them the punishment of the bat kohen. We're going to see later on the reason for that is because the pasuk says at the end of the pasuk, "He mechalelet by eish she profaned, she gets burned." The pasuk says she. So they learn from here that only she can get burned and not the Edom Zayimim. We're going to see not even the Bo'elet, not even the person that she's with gets burned. Only she gets burned. The other one gets the regular punishment, whatever the Israelite would have gotten. All right, so let's now begin the next section. So the next section is really a very long Breita. This Breita is a long Breita, and we're going to go through the Breita today. and we're not going to be able to go. We're not going to analyze the Breita yet. We're going to go some parts. We'll analyze it, but the Gemara is going to analyze Be'ez Hashem next week. So right now, we're just going to focus on what the Breita says, try to understand it to the best of our ability, and then we'll see next week how the Gemara continues to analyze every section of this Breita. This Breita is based on this pasuk that we're quoting. If you want to actually see the pasuk in its full, you can take a look at the Torah or Hashalom on the Hebrew side, left margin. On the left outer margin, it says Messiah Shas, and then the second one from the top says Torah or Hashalom. So that's the psukim that's brought down in the Gemara, usually brought in its entirety in over here. So it's Parshas Emor, we had just read, and the pasuk says Vat Ish Kohen. We're going to translate it to simple English, and then we're going to see how the Breita is going to break this up. Vat Ish Kohen Ki Techel Lisnot. Okay, this is the way most people would read it. The daughter of a man Kohen, that Ki Techel, a lot of people like to read it as she begins to profane. That doesn't actually the way it's not the way you're supposed to read it. Ki Techel is no, she is profaning, right? Not techila like beginning, but rather techel as chilul liznot. She's making profaning by doing znut. Et avia hi mechalel. She profanes her father. But eish tisaref. She's mechalel her father, therefore burn her. Okay, that's the pasuk. Begins the Breita 50b3. Tana Rabbanon. Ovat ish kohen ki techel. If the daughter of a kohen profanes, she makes a hilul. Right, so she gets burned. The Breita says, you might have thoughts, even if she's Mechalel Shabbat, not just if she does Zenut, but even if she does the Chilul Shabbat, she has to get more burned. Therefore, the Torah says, Liznot. It's only talking about adultery that she gets burned, not if she's Mechalel Shabbat. If she's Mechalel Shabbat, you would have thought she gets burned. No, only if she did znut. Why would you think that? That's what the Gemara next week is going to be dealing with. That's one of the things it's going to deal with. Why would you think that Bat Kohen, who's Mechalel Shabbat, should get burned? You get skila for that. That's what the Torah says. Why would you think otherwise? So we'll have to see that at that time. Continues the Breita. You might have thought that she gets burned if she does nut, if she's with another man, even if she is a penuya, even if she is single, she's not attached to any man. You might think that. Therefore, the pasuk says, "Nemerkan avia." It says over here, the father, and it says by the case of the Na'ara Hamorasa, the engaged betrothed lady who commits adultery, she gets stoned. Over there it says avia. It's Xer Shava. Mala Halan. Over there by the Na'ara Zinut im Zikat Habal. She commits adultery, she commits zinut relations when she's attached to her husband. Afkan zinut im zikat habal. So to this pasuk is not just talking about a single girl Kohen who starts to have relations that she gets burned. No, it has to be attached to a man, to a husband, for her to get burned. The Gemara then says, Abarta then says, "Oh, Eino Oimer Avia Elahotziet Kol Ha'adam." No, maybe you can learn it another way. Maybe we the pasuk as follows: "Vatish Kohen Kitachel is not et Avia." If there's a daughter of a Kohen and she begins to have relations with her father, she profanes with her father. That's the way the pasuk means. Kitachel is not et Avia. She's having znut with her father, then she gets straight for. But anyone else, if she had with anyone else, she doesn't get straight for. That's the way the pasuk is to be read, right? Everyone else, she won't get straight for, but only for her father she gets straight for. Where it says, when the pasuk says he mechalelet, she is profaning. Have you call Adam Amar? It means every person. What does that mean? If she was having relations with her father, the pasuk shouldn't say he mechalelet, she profanes her father. Rather, he mechalelet, they were profaning each other. Or he got profaned by himself. Right? He mechalel means that she's doing something and profaning her father by doing it, and he's not doing it. But if you're saying that it only means that if she did it with her father, then it shouldn't say he mechalel, she's profaning him. Rather, they're profaning each other. So the fact that it says she is profaning him, therefore, have you call on the mother means that she's profaning with other people, not her father. Hamani mikayim avia. So what do I do with the word avia? Nemer kan avia, or nemer halan avia. Here it says avia, and thereby nara hamorasa, the betrothed lady. It also says the word avia. Malahan zanut imzikataba. Just like over there, nara morasa is when she's betrothed, she's attached to a man, to a husband, that she commits these relations. Al-kan zinut imzikataba. So to here, the relations are happening when the bat kohen is attached to a husband. Okay, so a penuya bat kohen who is having relations with people, but um, she's not engaged, she's not betrothed, she's not married, then she will not get streifa. And it doesn't mean that she's being mizana with her father because it says he mechalel. Okay, so now the Gemara's question is imala. How the Brayta continues imala how nara bihi aruso. In that case of the nara morasa, she is a nara. Na'ara is a girl that's between 12 and 12 and a half. And she has 2 pubic hairs. So she's considered Na'ara. And she commits this, then she gets the skila. So, but that's a Na'ara. And now you're comparing the Avia. So Afkanari Varusa. So I might think it's only about Kohen, who's a Na'ara. She's between 12 and 12 and a half, and she is 2 pubic hairs, and she is betrothed. Na'ara Vihinasua. But what about if she is a Na'ara 12 and a half and she's fully married? Your Bulgarit, or she's past 12 and a half, he Rusa, and she's betrothed. Bulgarit Vihinasua, if she's 12 and a half and she is married fully. Let's say she's even an older girl, Kohen, and she commits adultery. How do I know that in all these cases they're going to get straightforward, because if you're comparing Avia over there is talking about the Nar Morasa, 12 and a half, and she's betrothed. Talmud Leimer, it says over here, Ubat Kohen, right? Mikol Makoim. She's always going to be a Blat Kohen. She's always going to be a daughter of a Kohen. Therefore, the pasuk of even though you're using Avia and comparing it to Nar Morasa, that's for the word of Avia to teach you has to be attached to a husband. Doesn't mean that she has to be a Nara Morasa. Rather, Ubat Kohen and all girls are going to be included in the general term of Bat, of the daughter. Then the Braita continues, Bat Kohen, the daughter of a Kohen, Aili, Elo Shinisat La Kohen. I would only know that if she was married to a Kohen, then she would get burned. The Gemara is going to have to explain why would you think that. It doesn't say that she's married to a Kohen, but that's the Braita for right now. I only know if she was married to a Kohen and she committed adultery, she would get the streifa. Nisat Levi, if she's married to a Levi or Yisrael, or she's married to Yisrael, or even if she's married, and that's very hard to understand because if you're married to a guy, there's no marriage there. Therefore, many other Gemaras have a girsa saying kuti, right? Because the Kutis originally were a Megayer, and we thought they were real Jews. They did a Gerut completely, and then we found out later on that they were actually Goyim. They didn't keep anything. They went back to their old ways. So if it was a Kuti who did the Ger, right? So then, even if she's married to that, how do we know she gets burned if she commits adultery? Lechalal, if she's married to a halal, who's a halal? It's a kohen who marries a lady he's not supposed to marry and has children, they're halalim. So if she's married to a halal and she commits adultery, how do we know she gets burned? Mamzer. If she's married to a mamzer, how do you get a mamzer? A mamzer is only if the union is karet. Okay, if you're supposed to get karet for that union, then the child is going to be a mamzer. Right? So any relationships, any arayot that is a karet relationship and they have a child, that gets the status of a mamzer except for one case, boel nida. Right? You're not allowed to be with a nida, punishment of karet, but if someone was with a nida and he had a child, that child is not a mamzer. Okay. Other than that, all the other cases of karet will become a mamzer. Ul natin and to a natin. Who's a natin? Natin. These were the Givonim, the Gibeonites. They were one of the 7 nations of Canaan. And when the Jews came to Israel, they realized it's too late to leave. Right? They didn't take the Yeshua's deals before, but so they disguised themselves and they came and they kavuta. They're from far away and with stale bread and old water or whatever it was and very little rations. And they said, "We heard about you Jews. You're so great. We want to join you on the Megayer." And Yeshua said, "Yeah, let's do it." And he did it. And then later on, they found there's Shiva Canaanim. There's one of the 7 nations of Canaan. But now you couldn't do anything with them because you made a peace treaty with them. So therefore, they were cursed. So they should be nitanim. They should be carriers of water carriers and wood choppers. And you're not supposed to marry them because they're from the Shiva Canaanim, from the 7 nations of Canaan, of Canaan. So, but even if she married them, right? How do we know that if she commits adultery, she still gets streifa, Talmud Lomer, uvat ish kohen, alpha p she'ena kohenet. Even though she's not anymore a kohenet, since she's a bat ish kohen, she is the daughter of a man kohen. Therefore, she gets it. Even when she loses her canonic status regarding some laws, she still can get burned for this. Therefore, even if she's married someone who's not a Kohen, she can still get the streifa. The Braita continues. He bestreifa the ain bo'ala bestreifa. She gets streifa, but not the one that she commits the act with. He would get punished like the Israelite lady would have gotten punished. He bestreifa, ain is of a man bestreifa. She gets streifa, but not those who commit a false testimony. They would get the death penalty of what a Israelite lady would have got. Finish up the Braita, and this is where we'll end for today. Rabbi Eliezer Omer et Avia b'sreifa v'et Chamia b'skila. If it's a father, then it's streifa, and if it's a father-in-law, it is stoning. Okay, it's an enigmatic statement. Again, there's a lot of parts, a lot of questions on this Braita, and the Braita will be picked up again. But Hashem, the Gemara is going to pick up with it, and it's going to analyze every part of this Braita. There's a lot to go through, and Bez Hashem, next week we'll do that. But that is for today. Okay. Any questions?